Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video we are going to watch the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto third movement played by Brett Yang. I already critiqued or analyzed the first and the second movement of Brett Yang playing this wonderful violin concerto for their 4 million subscriber event, and now we are going to watch the final chapter of this violin concerto in E minor by Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy. I want to thank you all for being here, for watching my videos. It is a great start into the new year to have you all here with your positive feedback and your interesting comments. Also, if you like this kind of video, I'm going to do more in the future. I already have some interesting violinists which I want to talk about with you, or interesting performances as well. But first of all, we have to fight through this 4 million subscriber concert of TwoSet Violin, because we all enjoy it. I think I enjoy it and you seem to enjoy it too. And I think it is very interesting to listen to people who are not yet on a professional level. I think Eddie and Brett both are fantastic violinists if they practice enough. But I also think that they are still some kind of relatable. May it be through their comedy content they put out on YouTube, or may it be through them exposing that they sometimes make mistakes, or that they can't play a certain way, or that they are not better than every other violinist. And that is something they portray very well. And I think seeing them perform on such a high level now is for us all very interesting. There are some similar stories in the social media world where some violinists get famous through social media and then suddenly the big concert halls are interested in hiring them for a soloist concerto. But I think with Brett and Eddie, first of all, they are the OGs. And second thing is, I think they are quite high level, because they played before in an orchestra, as they say, which is a big achievement. For example, if you would be so lucky or so skilled to get a place in an orchestra in Germany, I think there are very little people who would give up this job of being an orchestra musician in a good orchestra in Germany for the uncertainty of a YouTube career. I don't know how it is where Brett and Eddie come from, but I think also they had to take some risks, but they also seemed to see the potential of a career in social media, so they pursued that path instead of being an orchestra musician with great security but not so much to say and not so much influence. So again, thank you all for being here. I really enjoy making this kind of videos, and I also learn something when I watch other people playing, and also when I try to think of something I could do better to make it a valid point here in the video. It is on another level than when I watch on my own. When I watch on my own, of course, sometimes I just listen to the music. I'm not always analyzing a player, but I think when you want to learn something, listening to recordings and especially video recordings can help you a lot with managing the pieces you want to play. Not only listening to someone and listening, oh, he's in tune, yeah, but also looking at parameters which can influence the playing, as in bowings, as in vibrato, as in fingerings, as in tempo choices. Many things go into the preparation for such events, like playing in front of an audience as a soloist. And sometimes I think it is a little bit hard to see that, because in the performance we have a habit in our culture that we want to make it seem effortlessly. And I think that is some kind of a lie. It is not an achievement to play as if it would be easy. Of course, it is a good goal to have in mind, to make all the hard places seem easy for you so that you can go the next step, which is making music out of it. But just showing off that you can play this easily is not the goal. And I think with really good musicians, you can hear and see that all the slow places which can theoretically be played a vista. So the first time you see them, you can play it. But with really good musicians, they have a plan behind that. And this plan, which they offer us in their performance, is oftentimes something which has grown over the years. So it's not like they take the first fingering that works and they put it out there, but they think about the historical component of the composition. Of course, you have to play composers like Alban Berg or Tchaikovsky or Mozart. You have to play them differently because they are in a different context. Also, the instrumentation is different. That is just one aspect, the historical aspect, which comes into play. But I think it's also not to underestimate that the best of the best also have a big knowledge base. They know how other people played. They had great teachers from from them they got ideas which they got from their teachers. And I think all this knowledge, when you are trained to listen to it, is really, really valuable. I hope also that the soloists of tomorrow will not just be satisfied with playing it correctly. I have to say, a big part of the audience cannot hear if you play in style or if you play actually well. I think when they hear the Tchaikovsky concerto, sometimes I think people are already fine and celebrate the violinist if he plays in tune and he plays everything correctly. And of course, that is also a big achievement. But in the end, we should always have really high expectations of the music that we play, because this music is indefinitely valuable and indefinitely powerful as well. Sometimes music can change lives, music can change people, music can put out emotions, and music can heal you, so to say. And also for some people, music can be a chance in life. Long story short, I really thank you for being here. I think it is a good thing what we do here. I'm not here to put someone down, even though I sometimes criticize some patterns which I think could be improved in Brett's playing. But overall, let me say this, everybody who claims the stage as a soloist in front of an orchestra has my highest respect, especially if you are some kind of a social media celebrity who will be judged in a very harsh way from some people. I mean, who knows? Who knows what I have to say about Brett Yang's Mendelssohn? We'll find out right now. So let's start the third movement of the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto played by Brett Yang from TwoSet Violin. Also, I will put my camera right here so that we have a better vision of the left hand of Brett Yang. So let's go. That was a risky fingering, but I like it. He hits the second finger perfectly. Here, he goes into the, what is this? He goes straight into the 6th position with this fingering. Oh, I don't know if I would do this fingering. I'm not that secure in making these kind of shifts. If it works for him, it's great. Even with the open string in between, that means that you don't have the possibility to play an intermediate note for the shift. You have to put the finger in the right spot right away. You cannot really make a shift. It's a risky fingering, but I think it works out quite well for Brett. Yes, I really like this transition from the second to the third movement. It's a really interesting place in music, I think, because you come from this slow melody of the second movement, and then this transition, it has such an intensity, such a strong emotion. For me, it tells me about you staying in one place and you long for a change, and you have to fight for this change. There is a transition and openness to this light and very happy feeling of the third movement. I think it's very interesting. It is like you tried the same thing again and again, and then you try even harder when the note goes to the G, the place where Brett makes this risky shift, in my opinion. And then the change happens slowly. You push the whole orchestra, the whole music, you push it to a happier emotion. And I think this is a great situation in music. Here's the change, I think. And then from there on, the introduction begins to the real joyful melody of the last movement. So let's continue with Brett. Wow. I think it's up there. It's really nice. It's a good tempo. I think it's crisp and it's clean. Let's see how it goes on. Wow, nice, nice. This is, in my opinion and in my experience, the hardest place from this whole movement. But it depends always on the player. What is hard for you can be easier for someone else. I think for me it was hard because it's really hard and fast and you have to get up there. I see that Brett in this place plays a fingering which goes into higher positions quite late. And it works out for him great. He plays it perfectly. I even have seen and heard professional violinists who mess up this place from time to time. Probably he practiced that also quite well, but also his fingering is good. Still, I want to show you a way which helped me and maybe help one or two of you guys who struggle with this position changes on the E string, which he does. But let's first watch his fingering in a little bit of a slow motion. Okay, he goes. He has a lot of shifts and it's always the 2-2 movement with the second finger. There's another way to cope with places like this, and I learned that from a musician and a violinist who plays in an orchestra here in my hometown. What he told me is, not just for this place, but especially with this place, he said, I'm going too late into the high positions. He was a believer in going up the fingerboard much earlier. That means going up on the D string, preferably, if you want to play high on the E string later. In this place, I hope I remember correctly, this was kind of the fingering I did, going up on the D string and then also shifting quite high on the A string before we arrive on the E string. Something like this, but faster, of course. Places like this, for me, as a violinist, are things I have to practice quite a lot. It is discouraging for me sometimes to see other people nail these places and have no problems with the tempo at that place. I really have to practice that. A good fingering for me helped, but I think his fingering is completely fine. It works quite well for him. And doing the shifts always with the same finger makes you listening to the shift quite well. So the shift with one finger is kind of a shift like a singer would do. It's the shiftiest shift there is, because you will always hear a slide, but that also helps the ear for the intonation. It's obviously a help then. Let us watch one more time this place played by Brett, and you can take a look a little bit on his fingerings. So he goes up on the E string basically, and he stays in first position up until the E string. I have seen other violinists do that as well. I think Ray Chen does that as well. Let's see what he does. Yeah, he is already on the E string. Climbing, 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 climbing. I think for him it works too. It wasn't clean, but it was fast.
Emotional, damn it!
Maybe his fingering works for him on some days, but yeah, I'm sorry to give you this example now, but I hear there are some notes not really clean in the higher positions, which makes me some kind of doubt his fingering, because of course he's a player with great ability, but this fingering going up on the E string is quite risky, and he does the fingering 1-3-2-4, 1-3-2-4, 1-3-2-4, and goes up like this on the E string. I think I would prefer Brett's fingering here with the shift on the second finger, because then you have the slide always. Therefore the intonation is easier to nail. It depends on the player, of course. At this place I would say 1-0 for Brett. Small update from the future. I made the fingerings for the bar 37 to 39 of the third movement of the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto from Brett Yang, Ray Chen, and from myself in a small PDF, which you can find linked in the description under this video. This PDF is for free, but for the exchange that you jump on my email list, where I will make sure that I will not spam you. I think it's very interesting to have 3 completely different fingerings in one sheet music. And you can test it out on your own. You can experiment which fingerings you like most, or even combine them and add your own ideas to it. Future Simon signing out. Nice that he does all the accents. It's quite good to hear them. He could also leave them out. It wouldn't hurt so much, but he plays everything like it's written. It's great. He ends there on a flageolet, a harmonic note, which is kind of viable. If you want to play that high note with vibrato, of course, you have to press the finger down. If it's the fourth or the third, it doesn't matter. He opted here to go with the fourth as a flageolet harmonic note. I'm always impressed by players who can play quickly because I really struggle with that. I don't know why is that. Maybe my hands are so big. I'm quite tall for a violinist, but that shouldn't be an excuse, I think. Still, I think the physical aspects of a player go into his strengths and weaknesses, of course. And sometimes I wish I had smaller fingers so that they would be more agile and, so to say, more fitting for the violin. Nice. You can see he has fun now. It's so great to see him playing this whole concerto, because I was a little bit still, after the second movement, a little bit in doubt how the third movement will come out, because he's fresh to this business. And the technical side of the third movement, it's not to be underestimated. But he really nails it. I think he really had prepared well. Of course, the first movement is hard as well. I can't even say which one is harder. The first movement has some places which are maybe even harder than the third movement. But the third movement, for some violinists who don't like to play quickly so easily, I think the third movement can be in some places harder, because all of the runs and the quickness you have to have there. And you can see he really has that. Brett has the quickness and the accuracy. I really enjoy seeing him play like this, because I can see he is in total control. He has even the ability to smile to the conductor and to really make music. It's great. He always brings out these different characters of the melody. It's all very subtle and nuanced. It's really great. Here I feel the orchestra is rushing a bit, and he is a little bit in trouble there. Let me rewind a little bit. Maybe also he was a little bit behind. Again, for me, it was hard to first be able to play these kind of passages in a good tempo, and also it was hard for me to remember them, because it is so... Yeah, it's harmonically. You're accompanying the orchestra. You have to listen to the flute and some other instruments and maintain the tempo and adapt a little bit. In best case, not adapt, but in reality, you have to a little bit be flexible at that place. As we can see with Eddie right here, he had to a little bit adjust his notes to the ones of the orchestra. It shows to me his great ability right here, which is not only being able to play all the notes, but also being able to listening to the orchestra. There's no time for the conductor to show him the right tempo or something. It has to happen in split seconds, that you notice that you are getting out of tempo and that there are some places not really aligning with the orchestra, and then you have to be quick to adjust and also not to overcompensate, so that you not speed up and then the orchestra is confused. I think it's a little bit a split decision here. I would say the conductor, of course, has to hold up the pace of the music, which might be a little bit faster in that place, but also he has to accommodate the soloists, especially in these kind of places, that you really look out for him and make sure that the orchestra is not rushing. Brett did really great there to recover from this small shifting of the tempo. Now I'm really curious what happens next. It's good, but now it feels like a little bit rushed. Maybe the tempo has changed a little bit comparing to the beginning. So if that is the case, he's now beginning to sweat. These kind of places are really great for the connection between the orchestra and the player. It's also really nice to play this beautiful melody. While the whole orchestra plays like yep, this is a really great idea, I think, of Mendelssohn, this connection. And then later the violin starts playing together with the orchestra the same things. And now the cello and I think also the viola or the violins continue this melody, and the solo violin is now there for accompanying with this. Really great. Did he just... I'm not shocked about that he was a little bit insecure there, but I'm shocked about that because when I played this concerto, I can remember, I think I was at the same place, was like a memory slip. And then I recovered a little bit later, but he recovers much better, and I think... Yeah, it's a little bit of an insecurity. I don't know what is with this place. So Brett and myself, we have the same place, which tends to fall apart in front of an audience. It's not a hard place. It's some kind of a strange place, maybe. Yeah, but he recovers great. I didn't recover that great, but I did recover. He has a great understanding for tempo, I think, because here he makes the tempo, he makes the upbeat, and he really hits the nail on the head there. Is perfectly together with the orchestra, and the orchestra understands him quite well, and the conductor, of course, as well. We can't see him right here, but I think he's also quite happy with the way Brett shows his tempo and Brett chooses his tempo. One thing I want to say real quick, the cornet, I heard once, is the king of the orchestra. When I was young, I had a violinist's ear. I was always just able to hear the violins and everything else, some brass voices. I couldn't even really notice. I was so focused always on the violin section when I listened to symphonic music. But then when I was in high school, I lived with a cornet player for a time. Yeah, he showed me the instrument, and I also played it a little bit, and I really discovered the greatness of the cornet. I now know that it is one of the hardest instruments to play well and not to mess it up, because some notes are not easy to play on the cornet, and also that it is really the heart of the orchestra. Listen to this place and listen to the cornet here. isn't this glorious? It is like usually 4 instruments in the cornet section, and they can blow away the whole orchestra if they want. They not even play loud and at this place. They play like a solid forte, but not even close to what the instrument can do. So great, this melody. Great, great. It was a little bit intonation there in the end, but for that he didn't have any major problems so far. I think it's the highest run in this movement, and he is really, really in charge of his technique on the violin. It's really amazing to see that. If there was a little bit of not so much clarity in this run or a little bit intonation off, I think it is in a live situation, it doesn't matter. Now we approach the end of the concerto. I think it is always a difficult moment, and I think it is always a difficult moment for different personalities. For example, some people have the inner strength or the patience to remain concentrated to the last part and to really bring the thing to an end, so to say. I think I hear a little bit, he's enjoying it. He's not messing up or something. I'm not saying that. Now the orchestra plays louder and louder because we approach the finale of the movement. I think it can a little bit inspire something in you. We call in Germany Torschusspanik, which means if you are a soccer player and you are just in front of the goal and you have to just put the ball in, and you are so panicking that you shoot the ball somewhere but not in the goal. That is, I think, a danger which can happen to us towards the end of a concert. That we have this kind of panic that we think, oh, I made it. I'm literally on the last page or approaching the last page of the movement. And then suddenly it breaks. Let's not hope that it happens here with Brett. I'm not worried anymore. He hits this high flageolet perfectly. I think he's just enjoying at the moment. And I think he lets go all of his emotions because, of course, he had practiced a lot for this concerto. I think he has put a lot of time in that. We can all hear that. And that is really amazing. I think he was always a great violinist. I always enjoyed him when he played with the TwoSet Violin content. I always thought he has some kind of quality. A quality which is not so common in violinists nowadays. I think he can and he should enjoy this moment approaching the last page. Great. For me, it feels like he's a little bit of rushing by, but I think the orchestra does the same, or they are still quite good together. And I think he has such a great security in those passages. Of course, there can be sometimes a little scratch or something, but overall, it's really secure, and he's totally in control. This one trill was a little high, but it's a minor detail. He could have used the fourth finger here. So we are back to the old topic. Regarding the fourth finger and third finger, I want to say something. It is not that I say the third finger is worse than the fourth. I think still the third finger has more advantages than playing with the fourth finger all the time. That is not my point. My point is when you use the third finger all the time for all the difficult or intense moments, you will never have the option to go with the fourth finger. The fourth finger can be trained well so that he sounds equally good and also can be equally well controlled. as the third finger. It doesn't mean that he will ever be better than the third finger. I doubt that. For me, especially when I learned to play with vibrato, I can remember that the first finger I could vibrate with when I learned that was the third finger. I think it has the reason in the nature of the third finger. First of all, the third finger is still strong. He's not as weak as the fourth finger. Also, he is not so easy to control. And that is a thing which you can use to your advantage, especially when you want to play with vibrato. This wobbliness of the third finger can help you find a good motion for the vibrato, for example. For me, it's much harder to vibrate with the second and the first finger because my second and third finger are so strong. And for the vibrato, you have to be a little bit loose. I have to train that for the other fingers. So I'm not saying the third finger is a bad finger to play. I'm just saying that you should always consider the option of the fourth finger. Here in this place, I have again the argument on my side because he plays a little bit flat. He goes for the third finger, and he could have played the high note also with the fourth finger. It's not that he plays with vibrato anyways there. Let's rewatch that. There was maybe one swing of vibrato, but it wasn't much. You can hear it is a little bit flat, both notes, the third and the second finger also. I don't think that all the problems are solved when you go there for the fourth finger. But going regularly for the fourth finger in those high positions makes you be able to play some things easier where you don't have an other option. And here it is like a 50-50. You can use the third, you can use the fourth. It doesn't make any difference because you don't have time for much vibrato or something. So you don't have so much advantages of using the third finger. You can also use the fourth finger. You can even vibrate up there. You can ask for some time from the conductor, for example. It's the usual place to take a little bit of time. And then you end up with different options when it goes down with the fingering. Of course, because he landed there a little bit flat, all the things going down was a little bit off. It can happen, and this can really happen. I think that maybe top-tier violinists would recover quicker. He was a little bit, you are stuck up there, and what can you do? If you start adjusting, it sounds even worse sometimes. He did the right thing, continuing playing and trying to get it back together, intonation-wise. Yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, he's losing it a little bit, but at least he's enjoying it. It's not a big problem, I think. It's the last page of the concerto, and he delivered so much until there. Of course, I know the feeling that you have played on a certain level all the movement or all the concerto, and then in the end you have some places where you mess up one note after the other. I mean, here's some bigger intonation things, but also he goes for risky fingerings. Here he goes for the G string. It is very common to go there for the G string. I think it's in the most editions also marked, but you don't have to do that. You can also go for security in that place. It doesn't matter too much. But he wants to play really like soloists play, and I appreciate that. I mean, he is already there. He can play that piece better than I could. I think he will still. It is like a good wine. It gets better over the years. Even the bowing, it was like a really expressive bowing. I'm sure he saw some other soloists do. It's great. I think that is how we should approach the music. We take from others what we like, and we do that things, even if they are risky for us, maybe for us mortals, and still we learn from them. And if we really want to get to the top of the tops of the world as a soloist, of course we have to work. We have to work so hard, and forget about the people saying 4 hours is the maximum you should practice a day. I'm sorry, but that's not true. All those people who are telling you this have had periods in their life where they practice like 6 to 10 hours. I can assure you that, because you cannot even learn all this repertoire, all these things you have to learn on the violin. Our repertoire is so big, you cannot learn that in 4 hours a day. It's simply just impossible. if you see someone playing on a certain level, you can be sure that he wakes up early. Let's say he practices 2 to 3 hours, then you eat lunch, then you continue practicing, then you eat something else. Then even in the evening you can have rehearsals, or you can continue practicing or listening to the recordings, which is also time spent practicing, not really on the instrument, but getting ideas and putting things in order and working with your music, writing down fingerings and stuff. It's not done in 4 hours. Forget that. Of course, you can be a really good violinist with constant 4 hours, but constant means really every day. Never 2 hours, never 3 hours, always 4 hours every day. You can get crazy good with that. But I think to be at the soloist's level, it's impossible, because even the length of this concerto is like 20 to 30 minutes. You have to think and practice and improve every single bar of this music. And that's not all. You have also to learn what the orchestra is playing. And now we are talking about the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. But if you play as a soloist, a real soloist, you don't have to play the Mendelssohn all the time. You have to play the Shostakovich, you have to play Tchaikovsky, you have to play Bruch, you have to play Beethoven, and then you are just a normal soloist. And if you want to be exceptional, then you have to play composers like Alban Berg, or the second concerto of Shostakovich, or the Schumann Violin Concerto, or the Szymanowski Violin Concerto, or Dutilleux Violin Concerto, or some unknown pieces which are not even yet big and discovered, or maybe also a premiere of a concerto which a composer is writing for you, where you don't have the possibility to learn from other musicians because you are the first who plays this concerto. I just want to mention that there is so much going on into being a great violinist, and I think having this YouTube career on the side, or it's a full business for them. They have merged, they always have to come up with new video ideas. They also have to practice all these small examples they play in their videos. They have to make contacts with Hilary Hahn or Ray Chen, and then arrange some interviews and think about the questions in the interviews, and so on and so on. Beside that, being able to play the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto in that quality, it's just amazing. And everyone who says otherwise or puts him down is like, you don't know what we're talking about. We should never underestimate what time goes into learning the instrument, the violin, up until this level. But let's continue. This, for example, would be a place where I would definitely also use the third finger for the high note. Oh, interesting. He goes here for the harmonic note after the high note. It's a great place. I can tell you from my small experience as a soloist with this concerto, I played it once. And this place, the ending and this high note, I have to start earlier. I have to tell you that I always wanted to be a soloist, like most of us violinists. I'm now well beyond 30. In my life, I had several situations, or constantly, I think, yeah, I'm getting old. I'm getting too old to get there. I thought I would be there when I would be 18, 20 or something, but it was a long way. I didn't really work on my violin playing until I got some intense teachers, let's say that. So when I played this concerto with an amateur orchestra who couldn't play this movement up to tempo, so we had to slow down the last movement, not because of me, but because of the orchestra, especially the flutes on the orchestra. They had to play some places and they couldn't play it in the tempo. But in the end, we said that we will go up with the tempo so that the end of this third movement will be in tempo. And then comes this place, yada-dee-da, yada-dee-da-dee, wah. this high note, which Brett just played here. And I cannot really describe you this feeling, but I want to share it with you anyways. I was playing this two notes. It's a high E and then E one octave lower until it goes on with the D sharp and so on. And those two E's came out in that moment so naturally. I hit this high note and I hit the low note, and it felt like it was so, maybe it was just a rush of dopamine or something, I don't know. But it felt like, yeah, that's how a good soloist should feel all the time. I have this feeling for two notes in the concerto, so I can build up on that. Yeah, this feeling is for me unforgettable. I don't remember all things going through my head during this concerto, and I cannot play this concerto by heart anymore. I could play it for then, but I forgot it half a year later because I didn't have the opportunity to play it again and had other things to play. But this moment stuck into my head, this glorious ending of this Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, because something accumulates there for me in my life. I had some achievements in my life. I wanted to play the Bach Chaconne, which I did. I also have a video on that on my YouTube channel. I played the Chaconne. I can say I'm technically able to play the Chaconne if I have the time to practice it. Also, I wanted to play at one point in my life the concerto which made me play and continue playing violin, which is the Sibelius Violin Concerto. To me, it is very close to my heart because also my mother is from Finland, so her family is from Finland. I have been in Finland before. Yeah, the concerto, the music spoke to me when I was 15 years old, and I had a break in my violin playing. I stopped playing for 2 years and then started again after listening to this concerto. So I wanted to play this concerto, and I accepted it to be in a long run. And I played the first movement. I played it with piano, and I still want to play this concerto at some point in my life. But playing the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto through without the sheet music, I proved to myself that I was able to get through this music and also to enjoy playing it. And this glorious accumulation in the end with those high E and then the low E, it was like Mendelssohn said, here you have something for your efforts. And this was this great feeling. It was a little bit magical. Brett is 2 steps further already. He is playing with a really great orchestra here. So let's continue to the last bars of the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto played by Brett. This harmonic note he chose here has a little bit the effect that there's not a connection between the two E's, and I like the connection there. I think this connection between the notes is, at this place, it's interesting. But of course, it's a question of interpretation. For him, this idea of jumping to the harmonic note and then playing 4/4, 2 times 4th finger, it's really interesting. It's also a good concept. I would play it differently. I would try to connect those notes, those 2 E's, because I think they can really melt together from the high octave to the low octave. You are so high above the orchestra there. If the intonation then is spot on, it's really the greatest feeling, I can tell you that. I wanted to put an eye on one thing he does really great here, and this is the accents, because there are always accents. Di-da, 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 da-da, di-da, da-da, di-da, da-da. Some of them are enforced by the orchestra as well, but some aren't, and he does them very systematically, which is great. And I think they spice it up a little bit. I have literally tears in my eyes. Thank you guys for supporting them so much. It's so great. In the end, of course, they make the videos which make you laugh and which make you smile and which give you funny ideas and which you can send to fellow musicians or friends and make them laugh too. But also you guys who watch and support TwoSet Violin, you make their dreams come true. They give back, of course, such a huge amount. This concerto was, of course, a little bit also for themselves, because they get the opportunity to play on Stradivari instruments and playing with a professional orchestra. Of course, they do it because they really want to do it, but they also put themselves through a lot of hard work and also all this organization and stuff. Of course, they have a staff, they have people who manage them, but in the end, they are the head thinkers most of the time, I'm pretty sure. I think everyone in this position, like Brett and Eddie, both from TwoSet Violin, should really be thankful for all you listeners, watchers from all around the world. And we should also thank the social media. Thank you, Google. Thank you, YouTube, for giving us the opportunity. We are living in a really amazing time where it is not so important anymore to have the best contact, and your family has to be in the music business, or otherwise you have no chance because you will never get the contact to the promoters and stuff like this, and you can play as well as you want. If you don't get concerts, who cares? I think it is really good for us today that we have different ways to achieve our goals, and all of it we have in our own hands. Of course, we have to work together to achieve such a goal. TwoSet Violin, Brett and Eddie, have to deliver something for their fans and have to think smart about what videos they put out, what goes well on YouTube or Facebook or similar platforms. I think they are still grinding it really hard. Still, it is the listeners, the ones who come to the concert and the ones who watch and listen to their videos, who make them not who they are, but who give them the opportunities they have. I think this is a great thing, and I think it is really beautiful to see such nice guys being carried by a large audience, which is so supportive. It's really, it brings me to tears when I see. I can feel how satisfied he is in that moment, even though maybe he is like a little bit overly critical of himself and he thinks he didn't play well or something. Sometimes musicians are like that, but I think he should be satisfied. He's so nervous he forgot to leave the stage. I think it's all fine. But I think it's sometimes funny to see non-professional violinists, how they deal with the situation after the concert. They wait for the applause, and then the applause comes and they are relieved that some people applaud, and then you forget to go from the stage and you stay there and you bow, and the audience thinks, what is he doing? Why doesn't he leave the stage? I think it's funny to see sometimes. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. I hope this movement was also a little bit educational for you. I couldn't demonstrate so much in this movement because you have to practice that movement to demonstrate that on the violin, and I didn't. At the moment, I'm not working so much on any particular piece, but I want to really dig into practicing during the summer, starting soon. I'm sure there will be some recordings of myself also coming sooner or later on this channel this year. I don't know which piece yet, because that also depends on if I want to play with piano or if I want to play something else, and maybe a Bach solo piece or something in a great location also. Let's see. Thank you all for watching. If you are interested in these kind of videos, subscribe to my channel, leave a like for this video, leave a comment if you have something to say to this video. I think this time the video was a little bit more emotional than technical, but I also think that Brett, the third movement, he was quite in control of his technique, and this is nice to see, and this gives him room to enjoy the musical content of this music from Mendelssohn. I really appreciate all you guys' support. See you guys in the next video. Have fun practicing. Bye bye.